Hello and welcome to Uncle John's Cabin. Got a bit of a different episode for you today. I actually have a guest. This is a first for the podcast. I'd like to welcome my good friend, Playful Mind Gaming.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, and we're currently sat drinking some beers in my apartment. I can just about see Eric through the smoke. And we are going to talk about Dragon's Dogma 2. And of course Dragon's Dogma 1, but there has been quite a, what would you call it, a hoo-ha about Dragons.
Yes, first word that came to mind.
Yeah, I think there's been a bit of a discourse over Dragon's Dogma 2.
Yeah, the launch didn't go over that well.
Yeah, and I believe that this could be a cultural moment. It feels very reminiscent of Cyberpunk. And very reminiscent of other launches, like when they said Diablo. Was it Diablo?
Diablo 4.
4.
I mean, 3 had a rocket launch as well, but Diablo 4 still continues to disappoint.
Yeah, and we're gonna not talk about microtransactions, and we're not gonna talk about performance rates on the PC.
Right.
Because I think that's what everyone's talking. I mean, we can mention it, of course.
Yeah.
But
so let's put it into context. The first, once the game launched on Steam, it very quickly went to the lowest possible rating, mostly negative.
Yeah.
Average rating of reviews.
I think it was 38%. I think it was.
Right, and most people were complaining that there was about €70 of microtransactions.
Microtransactions, yeah.
Like rest stones and teleport stones and camping supplies.
And changing your character's appearance.
And they didn't announce that. Mm-hmm. And then they realized...
Not even to the journalists, apparently.
Right, and then they realized you can't make a second character. I mean, you can, but you have to go through some extra hoops to do so.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people thought that you had to buy the character editor item.
Yeah.
Which is not true, but still it was a nasty surprise.
I paid 25 cents to download the character editor, which I thought was so funny. 25 cents.
Yeah.
I just paid €70 for this.
Quarters and dimes.
Yeah.
And, the other thing is the performance was a big issue there. And of course there are a lot of people whose system doesn't meet the minimum requirements. In my case, for example, my computer easily meets those requirements, but still when I opened the game, it pretty much looked at me and my computer and said, "Man, what a potato you have. You're in the lowest possible settings," which is not quite fun. And but we're not going to talk about that because we actually played the game.
Yeah, what's interesting is we're coming from it with two completely different perspectives. So I'm a long-time Dragon's Dogma fan. I didn't play it in 2012. I actually played it in 2021, but I really enjoyed it. It was part of my Skyrim come down. So I'd finished Skyrim the first time and was really, really sad when I finished it and was dying for a game similar to Skyrim.
Right.
And Dragon's Dogma was recommended, and it's not exactly the same as Skyrim, but it's not a million miles away. And it was a fun fantasy adventure. It wasn't perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but visually it was really cool looking, and it had a really interesting combat system. Again, not perfect, but very interesting. And and I'm a PlayStation 5 player. Obviously, I'm a PlayStation 5 player, and I pre-ordered it. The special edition, even counted down the days till I could play it. Had a launch at midnight. Super excited.
Right. And me, I got the first game in 2016 when it was on sale. I tried it for half an hour. I was kind of put off by the weird outfit my character was wearing. I had this very silly hat. And then I figured, okay, I'm going to try it later. And it went into my pile of shame. Yeah. And then when I saw that Dragon's Dogma 2 is coming out, I figured, okay, I have 3 weeks to play the first one. And I tried it and played it for an hour and walked into a camp of whatever it was that killed me immediately. So I put it back onto my pile of shame where all the other games are. But then I was kind of caught up by your excitement. And I figured, okay, if he says this is a good game, I'm going to buy it. And I got it on the morning after it was launched. And one of my favorite YouTubers, Fighting Cowboy, he was like, oh my god, for me this is game of the year. And so I went and bought it on a whim.
Yeah.
And I'm playing on PC, of course.
Yeah, you're playing on PC. So we've got a console and a PC player.
Right.
One with a lot of knowledge and experience. One who with not so much.
I don't know if this makes me a lore master of the game, but I watched the first 3 episodes of the Dragon's Dogma anime on Netflix.
I watched the first 5 minutes. I wasn't really into it, but as I said at the beginning, it would be very easy to talk about microtransactions, and it would be easy to talk about frame rates and dipping quality on the PC. But as I say, I think there's about 1,000 press pieces, probably equally the same amount of videos of people dunking on the microtransactions, and I think we should dispel it straight. On the PlayStation, it doesn't seem to be an issue. And the things that you can pay for, you can get in the game. Now, the question will be, how frequent will there be? I've got a feeling there might not be as frequent in Dragon's Dogma 2, because if they're available to buy, we're from a marketing background, right?
Right.
So we both work in marketing. So I imagine if you're offering something for free, you would reduce the amount of... Sorry, if you're offering something to be paid for, you would reduce the amount of free stuff.
Sure.
So I think when I get deeper into the game, I've got a feeling, a sneaking suspicion, that these things will become very rare.
Right. One example, the jail key. You can buy the jail key on the store. That one does not break if you use it.
Okay.
You can buy the jail key in-game from the vendor. It's 3,000 gold. Just to put that in context, resting at an inn is 2,000 gold, which already sounds kind of silly, but that's besides the point.
The economy of Dragon's Dogma.
But that one breaks after one use.
Yeah.
So if you happen to end up in jail a lot, you may want to get the one from the store.
I mean, I'm not stupid. I know that these things are available to download, right? For a price. So you can bet your bottom dollar that in the 3rd act of the game, it's going to be a nightmare trying to find these things, and that's putting me off already. But we did say we weren't going to talk about this.
Right.
What I want to talk about is just my disappointment in the game, and it's nothing to do with the performance, because it's completely fine on PlayStation 5, and it's nothing to do with the microtransactions, because I don't even know where to look for them, and they haven't been an issue so far. I've changed my character twice already using the stuff that I could buy in game, and I'm not going to change my character again. I don't think, at least not the whole character. I mean, there's a barber, so you can change your hair and you can change all that, but I'm not going to change the actual physical character again, I don't think. So that's not really an issue for me. My disappointment was, it's just, how do I put this? I've explained it to you a few times already, but I was expecting something a little different. I was expecting them to take, and we're talking the 12 years now, so 2012 is when it came out. We're now in 2024, so that's 12 years almost, and I would have expected them to have taken the idea and refreshed it and made it a little bit more modern. It's exactly the same game as the first, with the issues of the first game. Like, the immersion is pretty non-existent, because it's just got this Skyrim vibe to it, and while Skyrim ironically became the game it became because of the goofiness and the wonky AI and the flying mammoths, they would just take off into the air sometimes, and the conversations you have with the NPCs that are all just lines of dialogue randomly generated, which would cause really curious interactions. Like, you would just kill a dragon in the middle of Whiterun, and then you'd turn around and one of the townsfolk would say, if you're looking to get a drink somewhere, I will. And it's like, did you not just see that dragon? So you can forgive that in the early 2010s. I mean, Oblivion was 2006. Skyrim was 2012, I think, or maybe 2011.
Yeah, something like that.
So you can forgive that unintentional humor. But in 2024, especially after a 12-year wait, and the hype, I mean, the Dragon's Dogma 2 was part of a data leak from Capcom, and someone found out that they were working on it, and then it became a big thing, and everyone was speculating, everyone was getting excited, me included.
Right.
And I saw I watched the trailer, I watched the interview, the Capcom showcase, and I was really, really excited. And I was just very disappointed, especially with the opening. The opening was so generic. You know, you are the Arisen, you are the answer to the everything, you are... And I thought, well, okay, I guess it makes sense to be another Arisen. But, and I said this to you, it really felt like J.J. Abrams was directing it. Because it is Dragon's Dogma 1. It's the same story. There's a dragon eats your heart. He's walking now the dragon's got something to do with it. There's an evil, sinister, oh God.
I mean, we shouldn't forget the time as well, because when Skyrim came out, it did a few things really well, like the whole open world type of thing and stuff.
Choose your own adventure.
It wasn't the first open world game, but it did it quite well.
And each area was just, there wasn't like in Dark Souls, in Elden Ring, where if you go to one area, you'll just get annihilated. Like, you could start your adventure anywhere in Skyrim, and the difficulty was just as difficult as if you'd gone to whichever side of the map you were on, which I always liked that.
Right, and everyone was playing it. I mean, you know, it's like Morrowind and Oblivion, of course, were popular, but it became such a phenomenon.
It did.
You know, the bugs were almost funny, you had all these memes in there, but you could do so much, and you could spend so many hours in the game doing anything but playing the story.
I would just walk around.
Stuff.
I don't think I've ever had that experience in any other game in my life where I could just literally walk around and look at the landscape. And I got so, I mean, as you saw on the channel, over 3 years I went through the whole game again.
Right.
With the anniversary edition. Sometimes I had mods, I'd alternate the mods, sometimes they were really humorous, ridiculous ones, sometimes they were like lore, immersion ones, and I know every inch of Skyrim. Like, if someone showed me a screenshot, I would probably be able to tell you exactly where that screenshot was taken. I knew that world inside out, and I would walk around it. I wouldn't fast travel sometimes, I would just walk and take in the whole experience.
Yeah, and let's not forget, the last couple of years we had Elden Ring released in 2022, and we had Baldur's Gate 3, which of course you could say, okay, this came out last year in September, so you know it couldn't have influenced Dragon's Dogma 2, but then again, that game was in early access and available from 2020.
Well, Baldur's Gate, sorry, delivery. Sorry about that, there was just somebody at the door. What I was going to say quickly though was that we are in a pre-Baldur's Gate, post-Baldur's Gate world now.
That, and also people are getting sick of certain things. I mean, just doing a Skyrim ripoff doesn't work anymore. I mean, look at Bethesda games with like Starfield. They did all the stuff that they always do with the heavy-handed intro, which turns you into the Chosen One within 5 minutes. And people are slowly getting tired of it. And if you look at the storytelling and the writing of Baldur's Gate or Divinity Original Sin or Elden Ring, although of course that's not very story heavy for many players, you know, the standards have gone up. And
I think that's what was frustrating me. So we're not going to go into any spoilers, but we will talk about getting to the first city. Because that's when the game really starts to kick off. So you escape from some mine. I wasn't really paying that much attention. I was pretty bored with the intro. I must say.
You were a slave worker in the mine.
Yeah, slave worker in the mine, and then you fly off on a griffin, and you end up in a new part of town. And then you have to travel, right?
Right.
You travel to this town. And you get to the town. There's a few boss fights at some point, I think. You start doing these quests. And these quests are like deliver this to that, and the townsfolk are coming up to you and saying really like cliched lines like you walk past someone and they'll be like, oh no, what am I going to do?
Right.
And you're like,
I mean, you just skimmed over the intro. I mean, look at the intro. You're a slave worker.
Yeah.
And you do one task, which is you take a boulder and you carry it to a pile of boulders.
I forgot about that.
And that is your storytelling about that part of the game. And then, there's that griffin attack, and you go to examine what's happened. You check out the commotion.
Yeah.
And, and then you see, oh, there's my chance to escape. And then another guy drags you out there.
Yeah.
And then the game begins. And if you put that little effort into the beginning, I don't expect them to have you for 8 hours, do slave work in line and stuff. But it's the same thing. It's even worse in Starfield, because in Starfield it's, hey, welcome, you're a space miner now. Here's your drill. Try drilling. Oh, we found this mysterious tunnel with an artifact in there. New guy, would you go in there? Oh, you touched it? Oh, you must be the chosen one. Here's the starship. And even that is more effort.
It was just such a weird opening. So you start in this thing, and then you meet your main pawn, and then you meet the two other pawns immediately.
Right.
So you start with the group immediately. Even the first boss fight where you're fighting like a Medusa kind of snake woman, was you fought a Hydra in the first game, and and it just felt like a rehash of the first game. And where my frustration is like when you go to this city and then you're getting these fetch quests, deliver this, pick up that, go to this part of town, check on this. It's like we've done this before. And we've done it better. And when I played Skyrim 2021, so I was playing it 10 years after it came out almost, and it had a charm to it, and it was goofy, and it was nonsensical sometimes, and it was full of bugs, but it had a retro, well, it was retro, it had like a nostalgia vibe to it, and I laughed along with it.
Yeah. And the thing is, I'm not going to say that gamers are an easy crowd to please. So if you have a follow-up to a popular game, it's always kind of difficult to say, okay, am I put people on a nostalgia trip, or am I rewriting everything?
Am I refreshing it? Yeah.
Right, and if you take, for example, a look at Dark Souls 1 and Dark Souls 3, which are bookends of the Dark Souls franchise, you go to Anor Londo, you fight in a room where you found Ansan and Smaug, and I like that. Sometimes it was a bit on the nose. But here, just what you said, in the first game you fight the Hydra, in the second game you fight a snake woman.
Yeah, it's a snake-based monster.
And here's the first big comparison that we talked about last night. This is a lot like Episode 7 of Star Wars.
Yes, it was.
Where it's like, okay, we're doing this, and the prequels didn't go over that well, and so we're going to put in Han Solo and Chewbacca and R2-D2 and C-3PO, and we're gonna have like this big weapon that can destroy planets.
Yeah, but it can destroy multiple planets this time.
Right. And so, the thing is that can work if you do it smartly. Yeah. But also it can just seem like a desperate attempt to, hit the nostalgia button. And that is, even though I didn't play the original game much, this is what it feels like.
It feels like it came out in 2014, like it was a direct sequel.
Right.
Because it's exactly the same game. There's 2 new classes, which are not, I think it's the Mystic Spear and Trickster. But that's not really, it's not, I think what I was hoping for is them to take the game and modernize it and give it a fresh coat of paint.
Right.
Because we're in 2024 now. And I just finished Unicorn Overlord, which is a fantasy-based game. And that was playing on nostalgia, but it had such a fresh and dynamic and really in-your-face way of taking the classic. It had everything you wanted: dragon riders, griffin riders, knights, bandits, lion men, and this it just had it just felt fresh. It felt modern.
Right.
Dragon's Dogma 2 just doesn't feel like that.
And if you look at the combat, for example, and I didn't play the first game much, but I knew, okay, you've got those pawns who fight for you. You see, one thing that Fight and Corway seems to enjoy a lot is that you can learn all the classes, all the vocations, and switch between them. But why then, if that is the purpose, if that is what you're supposed to do to have fun in this game, why do they make it so difficult? Because, I started with an archer, not because I later learned that archer is easy mode, but because I like playing archers in games in general. And I'm having this equipment and I'm constantly over encumbered and have to walk slowly and have to shuffle my gear around. And that is something, in the 80s.
Yeah, the encumbrance thing is really strange because the potions are really heavy.
Right, and a small inventory, that was a thing in the 80s where you had to really consider the memory of the game and the processor. But, there is no excuse anymore. And if you tell me it's about realism, that you can't tote around like 8 suits of armor, I mean, we're in a game where we fight dragons and hydras and stuff, right? And we're using magic.
The encumbrance thing is quite smart. I've always kind of liked it because it just makes you conscious about how much stuff you're carrying. But what I don't like about it is you can change your vocation, but there's armor becomes locked out for certain vocations.
Right.
And I think it's going to be like the Skyrim appreciation episode. But Skyrim did it really well when it came to changing your classes, because whatever you did in Skyrim, you earn experience for.
Mm-hmm.
So if you go around fighting people with a sword, you'll get one-handed experience. If you go around with a double-handed axe, you get two-handed experience. If you start casting spells, you get magic experience.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a completely blank slate.
Yeah.
And you can make a warrior barbarian, you can make a mage barbarian, you can make a spellcasting thief, you can make all these different, like...
An illusionist archer.
Exactly. I mean, I changed my vocation like every couple of months, and I would do multi-classes and dual classes, very Dungeons and Dragons-esque.
Right.
But with this, it's like, it just feels like one day you're a warrior, right? And you've got the best armor and you've got a double-handed sword, and you think to yourself, I'm going to try some magic. I'm going to be a magic user. Right. So you change your vocation, and then all of a sudden you're like, I can't hold this sword anymore. I don't even know what to do with it.
Right.
It just feels unrealistic. You should still be able to use every weapon, use every armor. Therefore, you can make some cool customization, like looks.
And it's just not well designed, because if this was about, for example, what I could imagine is, okay, you're in the open world, you fight enemies as a sorcerer with your pawns.
Right.
But then you meet a dragon, and the dragon, we talked about a dragon fight where it's a dragon who has all these weak spots along his neck, these blisters or whatever it is. And in that case, you could say, okay, I'm going to switch to be an archer now.
Yeah.
So you go to your back to your guild master in town to change your vocation. You walk to the innkeeper to access your storage.
Yeah, to get all the armor that you can now suddenly wear.
If I could carry it all around, I would actually have fun where I go, okay, here's a group of enemies, I'm going to switch to be a sorcerer, I'm going to use some AoE spell, and then there is a Cyclops that I want to hit in the head, and it's really high up, so I'm going to switch to my archer. But they designed it in a way where it's just not intuitive and fun and easy.
Well, that's what I was doing in Skyrim towards the end. So, like, I was an illusionist. I was also an expert in one-handed, and I was an expert in archery. So it depended on the fight. If I'm fighting some bandits, I'll just go with the sword. Mm-hmm. If I'm fighting ghosts, then the magic's probably going to be a lot more useful. Right. And then if there's an enemy that's just too far away, I can just snipe him with the bow. And it was a really fun experience.
Yeah. And I could do this in Elden Ring, where I had a character...
you just have a bow in your back.
Right, or like I had a Dex character, and he had like 6 different weapons.
Or you could buff your own weapon. Right. So you could use like flame sword and then buff your own sword.
Or I had a weapon that did holy damage and an AoE cone. Then I had a sword which did like a flame attack and stuff. Mm. And you could switch the weapons. But you can't do that in this game because you have to go back to town to switch your vocation. Yeah. You can't carry all that equipment because you're constantly overburdened. And
I think there's a way you can change your class mid-battle, though. That's what the trailer suggested.
Yeah, but it's then again, you would need to change your equipment. And this morning I was playing, and I've got a few ingredients. I've got like 5 flasks. I've got my equipment, and I've got this outfit that I need for that quest, that royal outfit, that noble outfit.
Yeah.
And that's it. I don't have like a lot of weapons, and that's another thing. I think one of the enjoyments of games is that you can get loot, like really cool loot. You kill this enemy, you kill this Cyclops, you kill this dragon, and wow, you get the sword of the 1,000 mortalities or whatever. And I didn't get any of that. All the loot is either coin. Yeah. Oh yeah, I killed a goblin. It's 150 gold coins.
Yeah.
Or I could get some leather or some eye of the Cyclops or whatever. But none of that is really fun, where I'm like getting bored. And then, oh, look, master, another chest. And I open it, and it's a health flask and 50 gold.
Yeah.
And none of this is fun, where I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, did any of the people who designed this Do they play these kind of games, or did they think this is really fun?
Yeah, because that's what I was like. So last night I was having a session. So I was talking to you, and then I said, "All right, you know what? I'm going to do another hour.
Right.
You know, it's the weekend. You know, I was playing Unicorn Overlord until like 3:00 in the morning some nights. So I was like, okay, I'll have a late session. I turned it on, and I was just like, I really don't feel like playing it. I played a few of these fetch quests, and there was one circumstance that really made me groan. Is you have to go into, and look, this is coming from a place that we're not bitching about a game for the algorithm here.
Right.
You know, it's not neurotic. We're just really passionate about it, and I'm just saying how disappointed I am on a game that, you know, I spent money on, bought the special edition, took time off work to play. So this is me just getting my frustration out. It's not bashing the game for no reason. I've got nothing against Capcom. In fact, they're one of my favorite game companies. So you have to do this quest where you go to a masquerade ball, and I thought to myself, you know what, this actually might be quite fun, because as much as I love slaying dragons and killing goblins, I also like the roleplay element to it. You know, you get really into these things. And I thought, there's a masquerade ball and you have to wear a particular outfit. So I thought, well, okay. So I'm trying to find the outfit. So I go to the store.
Right.
And I'm like, well, the blacksmith's not going to have like evening wear, right?
Right.
So I thought maybe there's a general store, like in Skyrim. There was Raymond Rements or something in Solitude that's just sold clothing. So I thought, oh, this will be fun. I'll buy a dress.
Right.
I'll put the masquerade mask on. You know, I'll have like and I was expecting this big bombastic set piece,
right,
where you'd go in and it'd be like a little cutscene, and people would turn around and you could interact with people, and you know, maybe you had to be a little bit, maybe there was a list of dialogue, and you had to be careful because you know, you're sneaking in here and you want to blend in. And I thought that'd be a really nice roleplay scene, you know, walking around in an outfit, talking to people, trying to solve a, you know, but there was you have to find somebody. And he sneaks off and goes through a secret door. So there was a real opportunity for some cool role-playing angle here, very similar to Baldur's Gate 3.
Right.
I couldn't find any outfits anywhere. You find them you steal them basically in the noble quarter if you happen to be walking into someone's house.
Right.
Which generally you wouldn't. But I happened to, and I found this courtly clothes, it was called. And it was an outfit, it was a very masculine outfit. And I thought, well, I don't, you know, I'm playing a female character. You know, I like a bit of my fashion selves. So I was like, I'd love to have just got a cool dress or something, but okay, whatever. I'm already pretty bored at this point. And that's the ultimate sin of Baldur's Gate, of Dragon's Dogma 2. It bored me. That's the ultimate sin. And I went, okay, well, let's go to this masquerade ball. And you walk up and the guard says, oh, you know, I'm supposed to let you in. Okay, cool, all right. So you walk in, and I'd forgotten to put the clothes on. And I'm assaulted by 7 or 8 guards.
Right.
And there's blood everywhere. And I thought to myself, I've just walked in to a masquerade ball, right? And I'm not wearing the proper clothing. Wouldn't someone say, hey, you can't come in here dressed like that?
Right. Even Oblivion did that.
Yeah, and that would be the end of, and okay, you have to go back and find some clothing. Or come back when you're, or maybe someone says, oh, I'm so sorry, I don't know if you've got the invite, but it's formal only. I would suggest going to the market and picking something up if you have, whatever, you know, just give me a hint.
Yeah.
But then I come back and I put the clothes on, and I'm like, okay. And I just thought, how badly written that was.
Yeah.
The two things that annoyed me is it should have been a really nice set piece with some animation of people at a masquerade ball. When you walk in there, there's like, what, 4 people?
Right.
And I'm like, well, that was a bit of a buzzkill. You know, it was a big opportunity to do a more mystery kind of quick thing where you had to talk to people.
Right.
And you say, and by using the answers, you start to piece together where this guy could be. No, you just walk in, there's like 3 people, you walk around the wall 3 or 4 times until you get lucky and you're like, oh, there's a secret door there. And then you go through the secret door and you find a piece of paper and then you go back.
What's really funny is what you're describing there is a quest in a dungeon in World of Warcraft in 2016,
Yeah.
where you're in there with 4 other players, and one of the boss fights is that you're at a masquerade and you have to talk to the NPCs to figure out where the boss is hiding.
Oh, well, there you
which
go.
costume,
There you go.
right? And this was in 2016 in one of the gazillion quests they put into that expansion. My quest, the quest that kind of broke me or was not fun at all, is the beggar one.
Oh, God.
Because it tells you have to keep an eye on a beggar and figure out how he's earning his money. And the
Thrilling
beggar,
stuff, right?
right? And the beggar is standing there at a fountain, and he's telling stories, story after story after story in prose. And I listen to him, and you have to listen to him for up to 20 minutes until he leaves his spot and starts to walk somewhere else, and then you have to follow him. And at first I thought, you know what, this is kind of fresh, where they go like, okay, this is really old school, you have to stand here for 20 minutes. But then I'm thinking, you know what, I wish I could do some work right now instead of staring at my screen,
Yeah.
Trying to play with my cell phone, to do something while I'm waiting for this guy to leave. So he leaves, you follow him. When you get too close to him, he says, and stops. He doesn't look around, you can't get caught. And you have to walk back 2 meters. And then he keeps walking. He walks to a bar. He leans against the bar for 10 minutes in real time. The day passes, him just leaning against the bar. Then he says, oh, it's late, I have to get home. So he runs. Now you have to follow him. And you end up in front of the door, which is locked. And I saw some videos where people weren't able to figure out what to do. And they tried to climb in there. They tried to do these really crazy maneuvers to get into the building because the door was locked. Well, it turns out you have to wait another 5 to 10 minutes in front of that door for it to unlock, because then he walks out again. You can walk in, find his beggar costume, and turn it in. And that was about 45 minutes for one quest, which was not fun, and which is not respecting my time as a player.
Well, I got the quest when I came to town, and some guy's like, oh, I wonder how he's making money. And I was like, yeah, well, maybe he's a really good storyteller. Good day. But then there was like a quest marker came up saying, find out how he's making his money. And I thought to myself, why?
Mm-hmm.
Why?
Yeah.
Like, there's a guy telling stories. There's a beggar next to him who says to you, oh, I wonder how he's making him some money. It's like, yeah, I didn't think that, but whatever.
No idea?
No idea. So now you just, and it's like, what is the point? Like, it's just badly written, I'm sorry to say. And one thing that annoyed me this morning is I was looking on the subreddit of Dragon's Dogma 2, and people are white knighting it. And somebody said, I don't know what all these gamers' problems are. The microtransaction thing isn't a big deal. I'm having the time of my life, and this is the game I've always wanted. And I was like, relax.
Have you played a video game since 1987?
Yeah, I was like, will you relax?
Yes.
Like this, we're talking here not about the microtransactions or the performance. I mean, just Google, you'll find hundreds of videos. We're talking about just how badly written the damn thing is.
Yeah, and there's another thing where, it's like, if you compare it to movies, in the 80s, movies were way different, and you could get away with some really crappy stuff, which would just look anachronistic and stupid in today's movies, right?
Right.
And here you've got a game where once you do the first few quests and you are proven as an arisen, it's like some guy is following you with a big cardboard sign saying, look at him, he's the arisen.
Yeah.
I went to a new town and I just wanted to pass through this town to get to a different zone because this game is supposed to be open world. And Fighting Cowboy said this was like Elden Ring, you can explore the whole world, and oh my god, I'm so excited to explore it. I went to this town, the gate was closed because I hadn't done all the quests there yet. And then I was just walking through town to figure out where to go. And in the course of me doing that, 6 NPCs walked up to me and gave me a cutscene, which I didn't ask for. I couldn't, I couldn't skip. I mean, you can skip a little bit. But they all went, oh, you must be the arisen. Now, can you go out there and get me 10 petals of a moonflower rose? And it's like, how do you know I'm an arisen? Why do you dare?
But you're supposed to be meeting this guy from the guards in the tavern every night to get secret quests to keep your profile, because you're the arisen, but there's a fake arisen.
Right.
So you've got to prove that the Arisen who is currently there is fake.
Mm-hmm.
But everyone in the town is calling you the Arisen. So wouldn't the actual guards that are loyal to the fake Arisen be like, there's someone in town claiming to... Like, wouldn't you be arrested immediately?
Right, and you go to any other town, everyone knows you're the Arisen. They're pointing fingers at you and giving you their mundane quests.
But how do they know you're Arisen if they've never even...
And it's just so...
I mean, do you have internet? Like,
that's what I was wondering,
Yeah.
because you go to a town which is like 40 miles away, and they already know what you look like and how to recognize you. And it's just so 2005
It's just, yeah.
writing.
I think, to bring it to a close, I think that in my head, whether this was naivety or whether it's just conditioning because of the market, but I was expecting a fresh, new, modern, AAA game,
Right.
where it's taken all the best bits of Dragon's Dogma and emphasized it to be something truly memorable.
Right.
And when I played it, I was like, this is Dragon's Dogma.
Right.
Even the NPCs with the goofy looks.
And to put in another point of view, I didn't play the first one. I figured, okay, this is a modern AAA RPG. I haven't played a good RPG in a while. I'm just going to get it. And I played it for 8 hours at this point, and I have no wish to continue because the combat feels... Let me, before we get to a close, I just want to point out the combat is not even well designed, right? Because I told you, I'm playing an archer, and the thing is, you have these special attacks that you can learn, and the game design is that you fight a lot of groups of monsters, and your pawns are in there. So your pawns are running around, they pull aggro, the groups of enemies follow them, it's really fast. Now my archer, when he uses his special attacks, I have to hold the shoulder button, I have to press the X, and then the pace at which this happens is as if my archer is reading a manual. I'm like, okay, I want to do the triple shot, pull back the sinew.
Thank you for purchasing a Rowan bow.
And the attacks are way too slow for the pace that the combat is happening at. And whenever I tried, I was either attacked by something while I was in the middle of an attack, or even with a big enemy like a dragon, where you think, oh, he's moving slowly. My attacks triggered so slowly that I didn't hit his weak spots.
Yeah.
And this is not a skill issue, because I was standing in a spot where I could see him. I pressed the button, I pressed the other button, I aimed. My archer pulled back the sinew.
Yeah.
And it's so slow and clunky, where I'm thinking, okay, we've got bad writing, we've got really cliche, quest designs and fetch quests. We've got
There's an escort mission, right? In 2024,
there is an open world where whole nations are only reachable through these two roads on your map, unless there's a boulder block in it or a gate where you need a permission because you're the Arisen. The ever mighty Arisen, but you need a permit to get through.
Everybody needs a permit.
Right, and and then you would think if at least the combat is cool. But even that is not very much fun. And let me not even talk about the sorcerer. I know you can speed up the casting at some point. You get a talent which speeds it up.
Right.
But by the time that my attacks that I wanted to use are activated, either all the enemies have been killed by my pawns, or they've moved to a different country, have filled their retirement plan, and it's just not fun, where I'm standing there and I really don't know what about this is supposed to be fun.
Yeah, I think that's my feeling as well. The writing is really bad.
Yeah.
The NPC AI and the goofiness was charming in Skyrim.
Right.
But it's not so charming in a modern AAA game that cost me €70. And where I am right now is I will finish it. I will go through it. But I just don't feel any desire to, which is really sad.
Right.
And I believe that in the next few weeks we'll start to learn what happened, because from what I understand is Dragon's Dogma was rushed and it had to cut a lot of content out. So this was the redemption arc, and the designer, I can't remember his name, but the designer from Capcom said that this will be the Dragon's Dogma that he envisioned right from the beginning. So he'll be making up for all the cut content, and you really will see an experience. And I must be about 10 hours in, but I'm not feeling it. I'm starting to like play it silly, just goof around in the game, not really take it seriously.
Right.
And that's not a good sign.
Yeah. And, maybe to close it with that old saying, this is neither the Dragon's Dogma we wanted, nor the Dragon's Dogma we deserved, right?
Yeah.
So,
do better, I think, is we are living in a post Baldur's Gate 3 world.
Right.
And we just, Unicorn Overlord, Lord, Elden Ring, these are games, Cyberpunk, these are games that really feel that you're playing with power, to quote the old Sega.
Right.
Or not Nintendo.
And I told you recently I've been playing some indie games, even some older ones like Legend of Grimrock or Archimond, which have been developed by a much smaller team, but they're so much more immersive. And I don't remember the name of the title. Maybe we can put a link in the description. Yeah. I showed you a game yesterday, which is developed by a very small studio. It's very much like Oblivion. And I showed you a video where I'm just walking out of the castle, which is
with the swords in it. Yeah.
Right, and in the distance you see a huge mountain, and it's got two gigantic swords sticking in there. And I saw this, and I'm like, I want to know what swords are these? Who put it there? What being is so powerful?
You've got questions.
Right. It's environmental storytelling, and none of these questions occurred to me in Dragon's Dogma, where it's all like, it's a field, it's a mountain, it's a little canyon. There's no environmental storytelling.
There was one town that keeps getting attacked by dragons.
Yeah.
And they were saying this town keeps getting attacked by dragons, and I just remember feeling, damn, must suck for you guys.
Yeah, maybe move and build the town elsewhere.
I didn't. Why is this town being attacked by dragons? Right. What can I do to help? I was like, good luck with that.
So to close this up, you were looking forward to it. You're disappointed, and I really feel for you because I can imagine it. Because if Dark Souls 4 came out, and I would be all excited and it would be like disappointed. I know what it feels like. I didn't have no expectations, but I wanted a modern RPG which is fun. I'm 8 hours in, and I'm feeling like going back to one of my indie games.
Yeah.
And this is not to create clicks or to be edgy or anything. It's just that both of us, we've been playing since the 80s, and even with like the rose-tinted glasses of nostalgia you may have for Dragon's Dogma, there is no excuse for this game sucking so bad.
Yeah.
And I can see them fix it in a patch, because they can fix the performance.
Yeah.
They can maybe patch in a few more items.
They're already going to put a new game feature in it, apparently.
Right, but you can't fix the combat, the world design, the quests, all of that. Is there to stay. And
it's Game of Thrones Season 8. That's
as Eddie Van Halen used to say, you can't polish a turd, right?
Yeah, well, that's certainly true.
Thanks for having me. It was fun to talk to you.
No, it was good. It was nice.
Let's do this again. Let's talk about the amazing game design of Zach McCracken and the Alien Man Band.
Yeah, definitely. We're going to do One Boy and His Blob retrospective.
Or let me have like a fit of anger when we talk about Void Trader.
Well, no, that's another one.
I
think List of Shame is something that I just learned today, and I've got 2 on my list of shame right now.
It's a pile of shame, actually.
Pile of shame.
I've got 614 games on Steam, and I played about 114 of them actively. So I've got 500 games that
I've just got Rogue Trader and Divinity Originals in too.
Right. So next time we're going to talk about. I guess we're going to talk about Rogue Trader, which is a game I was looking forward to.
Let's do that next time.
Okay. So thanks for having me. It was fun, and thanks for listening, everyone. And
thank you, everyone.
Bye.